Well, Ramona Thomas is our next guest, and we're gonna all be in agreement that Rhonda gets her page back up and running and all her people back. So you all out there, if you are already friends with Rhonda on Facebook, or if you're not, let's give her some additional people, more than she had before.
Yeah.
So Ramona, thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and welcome. And you need to unmute your mic so we can hear you.
There you go.
Okay, there we are.
So what I was saying was, thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, you are based in California.
I am.
So the time zone difference, we had to work that out. I'm thinking that you were on the East Coast, but you were on the West Coast.
Well, actually, when I spoke to you on the phone, I was in the East Coast.
Okay.
That's why I had to change the date and everything.
Oh, okay. So you write books that target the middle schoolers and for teens and young adults.
Yes. So my most recent book, which I will hold up.
Yes, hold it up.
This book here,
Okay.
which
hold
is
it close to
ID.
Yeah, put it close to you.
Yeah,
Oh, close to me.
Close to you, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this book here, IDK, actually came out this year in April. So this is my most recent book, and it is classified as a young adult book.
Okay. So
other two are for middle grade.
Okay. Well, tell us what it's about.
I sure will. So IDK, can you guys tell me what IDK means?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yes, very good. Very good.
Some of the lingo, I know the lingo that's been around for a while, but they got some new ones now.
Right, but sometimes people who are, anybody who's 40 and up, a lot of times they have to think about it like, they don't really, it's the younger people who get it right away. But IDK is the setting is a school, and actually the school is Michelle Obama Academy. And it's a school that I say would be a typical California school where there are students of various ethnicities in the classroom. And this particular class is going to celebrate International Day. And each student is to bring food from their culture. So the teacher asks the students to name the origin of their cultural food. And the Black boy is the only one in class who can't answer the question. And one of the reasons he can't answer the question is because his food is not named for the country where he's from. So Jose's food is from Mexico. Janakita's food is from Japan. Maria's food is from the Philippines. Kumar's food is from India. Kofo's food is from Nigeria. So we have students whose families' backgrounds are from various countries, and they eat those foods in their home. And of course, in his home, he's been eating soul food, but nobody's really ever talked about the origin of the food.
Well, it is American. It is uniquely American.
Well, you know that, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah, that's true.
This book is historical fiction, and it touches on the foods that actually came here from Africa, like black-eyed peas and okra. And also it talks a little bit about, like for instance, the word gumbo is actually an African word, and it actually means okra. So,
okay.
So I did a lot of
gumbo, so that's my conundrum.
You did what?
I don't like okra in my gumbo, so that's
yeah.
And she doesn't like okra in her gumbo. But basically, this is a story about a boy who has to, you follow him on this journey to learn about the origin of his cultural food. And so in order to learn, he goes to his village. His village includes his grandparents, his parents, his uncle, and of course he does a lot of research online. And ultimately, every student in this particular class, the goal is that they're going to give a speech on International Day, which is a program at the school, and they're going to give a speech about their cultural food. So it comes together with all the different cultures, and you know, I can't give everything away, but
Right.
in order to talk about soul food, you have to talk about slavery. So there's a portion of it
Yeah.
that delves into that a little bit, but not a whole chapter. And then there's a portion of the book where we talk about Soul Brother number one, Queen of Soul, why everything was named Soul at that time, Soul Train. So, you know, everything had soul in it. And why was that? So his village explains that to him, and he's getting a better understanding of why his food is not named for his country, which is, I think, for any student, particularly any Black student, to learn this will help them with their self-esteem. I mean, I can imagine what it's like to be in a classroom when everybody else can talk about their home, their cultural food, and you be the only one who can't really answer that question.
Yeah. If you have an audience that is very diverse, it would really come up.
Yes, and in California, I would say a
Yes.
lot of our audiences, you know, wherever we move, it's kind of, I would say, very diverse. And another thing I noticed, because sometimes I substitute teach, although I haven't taught for a lot of years, my career was in the private sector for like 30 years with a corporation. And then I worked in public sector with the city. But when I wrote my first book, I was still working, you know, in a corporate environment. What I've learned though, since substitute teaching, is that a lot of newer immigrants, for instance, we have a lot of people from the Middle East and, you know, just various places around the world. I would be in the classroom and I would ask the students, because they would ask me after I've read to them one of the other books or had discussions about it, they would ask, are you going to write another book? And I say, oh yeah, I'm working on a book about soul food. Raise your hand if you can tell me what it is. And I literally would just get blank stares.
Wow.
Even from the Black students. And I said, well, I don't know if they're just shy or they not, you know.
These days, because you know, I think our kids now, with the way Gen X has raised our kids, we've raised them because we wanted them to have better than we had. And so often our kids are now going to diverse schools. There aren't as many going to predominantly Black high schools anymore. And everything is diverse. I mean, when my daughter was growing up, I had to make her read Black books because she was like, I just want to read a book. Why does it always have to be a Black author? I'm like, no, you're going to read some Black authors. And so now it's like a concerted effort to get our young people to celebrate our culture and not think that we're just trying to shove it down their throats, but we just want them to know their history.
And that's great if those young people are among people who are teaching them. A lot of you learn that in church or, you know, depending on what type of social organizations you may be a part of. But then there's a whole group of children who don't know because they're not even being approached about knowing.
Right.
And
they're not exposed to it at home.
Yes. And
or
also
in their neighborhood or you know, they're not really affiliated with the church. Right. Or if they are, the church is not focused on that. Most churches that have any kind of a sizable membership or an attendance will do some Black history things. They will do things that will focus on history.
Right.
So, but not everybody is in church. Right. Not today, like it used to be. Church attendance was a lot stronger. And that's across the board among all ethnicities, the studies have shown. I think it used to be 80% or 85%. And now it's more, well, the church attendance.
Yeah. Huh, interesting.
And now I think it's more like 60 maybe.
Well, the other thing is, I feel strongly, well, my motto is I aspire to inspire. And I feel like, especially at this time where we're having our books banned, and just a lot of things are happening, not here in California. Hopefully that won't happen here. But when you think about what's happening in Florida, and when something happens one place, sometimes it trickles and continues. So it's up to us to really ensure that we are the educators of our children. And even though they go to school and they may learn a little bit during Black History Month, but here in California, well, of course, we don't have HBCUs, number one. When I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of Black educators, and definitely Black history wasn't being taught in school at that time. Now it may be now, but when I was teaching just recently as a full-time teacher right before COVID, and it was Black History Month, the teachers at the school where I am or was, they were struggling like, oh, what is Black History Month? What are we going to teach? And then it was like, oh, Martin Luther King and
Same 5 people.
Yeah, so I was like, no, because we, in the city that I happen to be in, I'm like, no, we have a Black city attorney. The police chief is Black. We have a mayor of San Francisco who's Black, so there are people who are local that we can teach about. You don't have to reach that far back. I'm not saying that people shouldn't learn about what Martin Luther King did, but I also think that it's more relevant for children when they learn about something that's current too, like not always reaching so far back. So,
and I think Martin Luther King, and I think that while he's clearly was a martyr and one of the most important African-American figures in the 1900s in that century. I think he's easy for people to do because they focus on I have a dream and that's it. They really don't talk about the other aspects of what Martin Luther King had to go through or represented. They could do his book about the letters from the Birmingham jail. They never do that. They don't talk about the bus boycott.
The other part of it is also that, like you said, he's easy. There are so many, even if you wanted to not focus just on Martin Luther King, I have a dream, even if you knew everything else about him, he's still an easy go-to when it comes to teaching history. And people aren't hearing about people like Mansa Musa, people aren't hearing about Carl Lewis even, or just all of these other historical figures that really make our history and our culture rich.
So in my book, I added, there's a section where I actually speak to not some of our heroes, like Dr. Mark Dean, who many of us don't know about, but he was very instrumental in creating the computer. Also current people like Ketanji, our newest Supreme Court Justice. And so there are different characters that are just mentioned very briefly, but this is where it's not only talking about the past, but bringing in what's current and today as well. The whole idea is that any person who reads this book should come away with more knowledge and feel good about their cultural food. Because I have learned also through the years, and I don't know if it's just here in California, but I have met even adults who have told me that in their families, I guess sort of our food was, I guess considered to be slave food or inferior food or something. So like I've heard people say, well, my family didn't eat that because they considered it to be less than, and which
other thing where people are trying to get away from, they're thinking that we're forcing things down their throat, and they want to separate themselves from slavery so much that they don't want to have anything to do with anything that they think is going to stereotype us, like eating soul food, like singing gospel music.
Right.
It's like, oh, you think Black people, only Black people do this, or Black people always do that. And it's celebrating your culture. It's not about stereotypes.
Right. So that's my goal with this book, is that anyone who reads this book will come away with a knowledge of the contributions that we've made and so many things. There are Black inventors that are in this book as well. So it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, I think there's one section I say that, you know, if you've ever had a Coca-Cola, where the cola nut comes from, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have that because that comes from Africa, right? So there's just a lot of things that we don't even think of every day, and hopefully that will enlighten folks. And it's not it's written in a, I think, kind of a lighthearted way, so that it's not like a woe is me, but it's like a woo, it's me. You know, it's like it should be.
Not a woe with me, but
Yeah, so then at the end of the story, you should be like, you know, like feeling really
Yeah.
good, like, oh, let me go make
But I've
some
got to
sweet
tell you,
potato
the
pie.
people in the comments are loving the book. A lot of positive feedback for the book. I did put your link in the chat, so I hope that our viewers will support this book
Okay.
and read it. And don't wait until February to read it either.
Exactly.
No.
Read it.
Exactly. So if
Now,
I
you mentioned,
can, oh, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, you mentioned something that I never really thought about, but that's because I've spent all of my life living in the South, except DC, which is still the South, because
Mhm.
Maryland had slaves, and Maryland is north of Washington. But I never thought about California didn't have any HBCUs,
Yeah,
because I just never thought about it. But most of them are in the South.
right.
Um,
And so I
uh,
think people who are from the South, if your parents are talking about, you know, your future in education, you know about HBCUs, you know about what the culture is. And my son, by the way, went to Hampton, so that was a choice.
oh, that's where I'm from.
Oh, is that right? Okay. So my
Mhm.
husband's from Virginia, and so my son, he graduated from Hampton, but
Okay.
so that for us, we knew how enriching that would be for him to go to an HBCU. But before I get off track, because I don't want to spend all my time talking about that, I want to talk about this. So
Okay.
this book is Dr. Wiz Magic's Potion. And this book is one of the books that I've written for middle grade. And it's
Okay.
a story basically about a boy who goes to see the wacky doctor. She puts a potion in his ear, and the potion gives him the ability to hear the food in the grocery store speak to him. So this is fantasy fiction. And
Okay.
basically, throughout the story, when his mother wants to bake these cookies for him because she's happy he's feeling better, you know, he's not sick anymore, and they go to the store to get all the ingredients. So when the mother reaches for the refined flour or the refined sugar or any of these refined products, the products that are organic and brown are yelling, "No, have her choose me." And so the mother doesn't know that the boy can hear the food speaking to him. And so each time he asks his mother, he'll say, well, you know, like, is the unrefined flour better than the bleach flour? And so she says, well, let's look at the nutrition label. So throughout this book, everywhere in the book, whenever they're making a decision about something, they actually check the nutrition label. So this story is really kind of focusing on teaching not only the children, but for children to encourage their parents. So if they're in the store with their parent shopping, it's like, hey, did you look at the nutrition label? And that's really important for us because oftentimes we don't, and we're not looking at what the carbs are in our foods. And, you know, we're diabetic or whatever. And so these are little lessons for us, and also teaching children at a young age that they should look at the nutrition label. But at the end of the story, there actually is a cookie recipe. So initially, this story was called Grandma's Brown Cookies because all of the ingredients that were selected are brown. And those were the ingredients that were organic and better for you. I had changed the title of the story because whenever you look up Grandma's Brown Cookies, if you look for it online, it would be with cookies as opposed to the books. So, you know, you would find that
Oh,
a lot of
okay.
folks thought it was a cookbook because the title was it was entitled Grandma's Brown Cookie. So actually I changed it to one of the characters in the book, who's Dr. Whiz Magic, who gives him the potion. And it's a very easy to read book, but it can be interactive also, because the parent and the child can, or young adult or whomever, they can make the cookies at the end of the story.
Okay. Now, what made you come up with the idea of the food talking?
Well,
What dropped that little nugget into your mind?
well, honestly, what happened with the whole book is one day, and I want to say I was in my 20s, maybe, I don't know, but I was an adult. And you know how like sometimes you're just thinking about something in your life, or it just kind of, whatever, it just pops in your head. And what popped in my head is that I used to think that the brown eggs were inferior to the white eggs.
Oh, they're actually better.
I found that out.
Okay.
But in my
They're
house,
more expensive too.
exactly, and that is in this book as well. But so I didn't grow up in any rural area. I never had
Okay.
really seen brown eggs, and
So you
all.
thought they were had like expired,
No,
or you thought they had been on the
not
shelf
that.
too
No,
long?
I think it's like the
Bananas?
no. I
Brown.
think it was like the Dr. and Mrs. I can't remember. Both of them were doctors, I think. They did the doll test. Remember the doll test? And
Brown. That's
and
why it's called Brown versus Board, isn't it? Weren't they named Brown?
no.
Clark. Clark. I think they were
Yes,
named
thank
Clark.
you. It's Clark.
Clark.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Dr. Clark, he and his wife, they did that scientific study, basically where they had the lighter doll and the dark doll, and all of the negative attributes were basically given to the darker doll, and all of the, oh, pretty, and all these other really nice adjectives were basically said about the lighter doll. I really think that that's what was going on with me with the egg.
Okay.
So one day I said, you know what, this is crazy. I'm going to write a book, because there might be somebody else out there who's young, who thought like I did. And so what I would do, and I still do actually, when I go to schools and I read my story to kids, there's a part of the book where I get to, and they're the eggs in the story, and the mother asked her son, so here are the eggs in the story with the little boy, and the mother asked her son, well, if you had laid an egg, what color would it be? And so of course he hesitates and thinks about it, and then he says brown. He looks at his arm and he says brown. But when I go to schools, even today, and I'm speaking to a classroom filled with students who are all different ethnicities. And I would say that most of these classrooms, 100% of the students, with maybe, I'll say 98% of the students in the classroom are brown, whether they're from India, Mexico, whatever. And I would say almost 75% of the kids, if I say, if you laid an egg, what color would it be? They say white. They say the egg
Maybe they don't have anything but white eggs at home.
Yeah,
that could be it. But if I say, if you lay an egg, what color would it be? Or I might say something like, I may even ask another question, like, because most of the kids, I would say sometimes I'm in a classroom where 100% of the kids have brown eyes. So I might say, tell me what, if you could have whatever eyes you could have, whatever color, what would you choose? And oftentimes they don't choose the color of the eye that they have. So this book is really to enlighten folks about things that are brown, that are organic, that are good. I chose food because food is sort of universal, and regardless of what you think about a person, you might go eat their food.
Right.
Right.
Well, Ramona, we are at the end of our interview time.
Oh, wow.
And so it goes by so quickly.
Really does.
And just show your two book covers
Okay,
again.
this
So
one
people,
is The Code Switch.
the
Real
code
quick,
switch.
two girls, both are competing for valedictorian. One speaks standard English, the other speaks colloquially, and is who wins. And it has a food component too, also in this book.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ramona, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter
Yeah,
TV.
thank you. I'm looking
And
forward
Your
to.
books, and we wish you best wishes.
Oh, thank you so much. And same to you as well. Thank you. And I'm going to follow you.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.